BLM put the black and brown stripe above it, it's like, I won't fly that flag. Fuck you. That flag has no meaning to me whatsoever.
Absolutely.
You know.
That was a conversation we had a couple weeks ago is how included should everybody be included. All right. I hope everything's
Well,
moving all right. Can you guys hear me? Am I echoing? I seem to be coming through
No,
better
I
on
hear you
my
just
end.
fine.
I'm hearing you just fine. I thought we were having a wonderful back and forth at this point.
Awesome.
It was
All
lovely.
right. And we are live again on YouTube. Unfortunately, it's only YouTube. So,
Fair enough.
We'll get it sorted out sometime.
yeah, I was just trying to do a trial multi stream using Restream and Mixer and something else. And I think the combination of everything was causing an audio feedback on my end because all I could hear was immense static reverberating through my headset.
Yeah, that reverb was amazing.
No, I still had it. It just went away when I asked you guys there how the conversation was going or how I was coming through.
Wow, I thought it had died a lot earlier than that.
No,
I'm sorry to hear that.
I had a static reverb coming in on my end. I've been working on it all morning. I can't figure out if it's the microphone that I purchased or if it's something going on.
I hope not, because that mic is making you sound pretty damn sexy.
I know, this mic is awesome. I'm loving this. I'm coming through nice and smooth.
You're making Undoomed very proud.
Undoomed. I don't know, Sinatra might have a little to work for as well. I am also trying to work on getting some stuff back in the window so that people can see what we're doing here. So if my computer happens to give me a hard time, I apologize now.
Hard time.
I'm just glad for the invite, man. And this is the first time I've been an active participant, not just chatting. So I appreciate it.
That's
I figured
actually
you
what
had
I'm
something to
trying
say,
to
so I'm
do.
glad I grabbed you.
My goal is to try to get 2 new people in every show.
Oh, cool. That's a very good idea. I mean, that'll keep the show nice and fresh, as opposed to the same voices saying the same things over and over and over again.
And that's kind
You
of
know, very
what I'm
much a
after.
crossfire kind of show where it's just two people talking over each other.
Let's see if I can do this. And it's going to get awful crowded for those watching at home as I adjust all of this down to be seen. You guys can see some of what I have on my screen. Some of the lots and lots and lots of stuff I have on one of my screens.
You have a badumps button. That's awesome.
I have a what? Oh yeah, I'll show you that in a second. Why are you not cooperating?
Hey, it's me.
Just a matter of resizing everything. I was thinking about doing a show just like this, where I actually sat down and just went through setting everything up for a show. I think it might be interesting for some people.
It's kind of fascinating.
Some people don't know how to do all this. I barely know how to do it.
Mahatma Khan-Jeeves, your guess is better than mine.
I have no idea how to do this. I'm just your standard old game streamer. So I just, play a game with a headset and broadcast.
Yeah, I'm a backup vocal. I have no idea how to make it all work.
I'm pretty easily learning things. LOL, what is happening? A lot of stuff is happening. The show is evolving. I was trying for.
You guys should have heard our end. It was like being on shrooms or something is great.
Oh yeah, actually, I had that happen to me earlier when I first plugged the mic in. I was setting up the routing features. I apparently had the audio going to 2 different places and the mic coming in from 2 different places. So I was getting 2 different mic feeds into 2 different headsets, and they were going back and forth.
Oh damn, that sounds like one hell of a reverb setup.
Oh, it went up and down as I tried to figure out what was going on. But yeah.
Out of curiosity, since I've never done this before, is my gamer headset working all right?
Yeah, you sound great. You sound
okay,
cool. My gamer headset, which is what I had to replace my old X12s I've had for like 3.5, 4 years.
I got myself a really nifty USB powered mic, so I can like control the mic from an actual toggle.
I have no
actual
on the
cord
mic,
itself without having to.
I
Yeah, I
did
don't
go
know what
buy a
this is
nice
called. My brother
USB
got it for
mic,
me
and
for
then the
Christmas.
headset plugs into the mic, and it came with the headset, so I thought that was a decent deal.
Yeah, no, that is.
And it came with some software called Audio Desk, which I'm not
Ah,
very happy with right now. I'm just started playing with
it,
it for a few minutes.
I've used audio def before for my game streams. It's actually not bad for balancing out sound if you have any grain or if you don't like the mic directly in your face. You see what I
Well,
mean?
my mic is
It's
18 inches away from me right now, sitting on a table.
oh nice. Well, you sound pretty good for being that far away. Like I got an actual headset on, so it's like right next to my mouth.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to get away from because my headset, with the way my settings were, reverbed back through the headset because of the way the
Oh,
speaker was.
ouch. Yeah, no bueno.
Yay.
Did you guys hear that or
I'm
no?
easily amused. I'm sorry.
Yes, I did.
All right. Why can't I? That's why I can't. Okay. There we go.
Yep.
Yay, we did it.
Yeah, that was mostly entertaining.
All
That was
right.
great.
So, moving on with the show, Dax, would you like to pick the next topic? Uh-oh,
Oh
keeps cutting
God,
out.
let's take a look.
All right, I can fix the
Does it?
cutout. Give me a minute here. Let me hide, close, and give it a minute to catch up with me for anybody that's following along at home. All right, Dax, go ahead and pick a topic.
This ought to be interesting. Let's go with conspiracy theories.
Conspiracy theories it is. The government is suppressing some technologies and allowing others.
I could see some merit to some of that. I'm not sure what kind of technology I'd think that they'd be hiding the most, other than probably some form of weaponry, but either spying type of technology, like some form of taps or IP delving stuff. That's probably the only thing I think they really got on us, because at some point, some kid in the garage somewhere is going to catch up and be the new Bill Gates, and we're going to see it anyway. And there's only so much you can do to stop an idea from being formed naturally throughout a collective.
As far as the government is suppressing technology, um, I I really on. So I mean, yeah, I can see it, but we're getting to that parabolic curve where the amount of tech on the civilian side, I can build a supercomputer by just rage streaming enough boxes together. So it's really kind of getting to the point where I don't think that they can suppress it. More to Dax's statement, where it's just that there's too much out there, there's too much available, and you just can't watch everyone. See what I mean?
Absolutely. But there could be means by which they're suppressing it that we just don't pay attention to. For instance,
Oh yeah, sure.
let's say
like Apple throttling. Sorry, I've been talking over you. Go ahead.
No, it's fine.
Sorry, Dax.
I'll have you go real quick next. Let's say I develop a new technology that would be beneficial to something that they're doing that I don't know about, and they go, "Oh, cool! This would work for what we're doing. We'll buy that off of you. We'll give you a really good price, but we're not going to tell you what you're using it for, and you're not allowed to use this technology anymore. And here's your
So we're talking.
Say anything, but they're not necessarily.
So we're basically
overall
talking about the
technology.
patent office. Yeah, you're basically talking about the patent office then, because for example, they're when ArcNet was not, I don't think it's ArcNet, but when they were originally building the internet, it was only for military use, and they had a couple of college professors working on it through various colleges, and it was only linked to like three actual schools. And then now, if you look at the internet, it's worldwide. So I mean, it is one of those things where I could see you coming up with a new technology and you try to patent it, and the government, very much like that Armageddon thing, where Bruce Willis is ripping into Billy Bob Thornton about the fact that they took his patented drill and messed it up. You know,
Yep.
I can definitely see that, and that's not too Alex Jonesy for me, in my opinion.
Right. And I think the reason people think of it as a huge conspiracy that they're trying to suppress technologies is it almost seems like sometimes we should have, as the public, had things available before or at the same time that the military may have such applications. And again, I think
No,
what they're doing is they're cutting in on the low end, going, oh, there's a new circuit board. Let's try that out for you. You give us 5 years with it, and then we'll give you the patent back. Or, hey, we're going to buy that contract off you, and we're going to use it, and this is what you get out of it. I'm not saying on everything.
yeah,
I'm just saying maybe that secretly happens, and small deals have caused it to become a conspiracy that they're suppressing technology. But what they're doing is just trying to um, have that edge, so they're buying the technology and using it first before anybody else has it.
I'm sure it's a
well,
little bit of column A, column B, because I can only imagine that they'd want to get all the kinks out first, see if it's corruptible, see if it's obtainable from outside the country, and also their national security crap. And if it works out, great, great. And then they let the person who created the patent have it, or even maybe even buy them out or go partnering on it. I'm sure that's how a lot of these firms they get their big scores that the government was like, hey, cool, this was awesome, we can help you like get it out there, you can put it in our stuff, here's a military contract.
oh, absolutely. I mean, like Harvard math, for example, there isn't a high end math course in Harvard except for three, and if you take them, you are registered with the government. You're kept on a watch list, whether you like it or not, because the level of mathematics that you take in those courses allow you to have string access that will make you a possible danger to the government, getting hacked. And considering the amount of times they've been hacked in the last couple of years, they probably should do something about it. No, I definitely agree. It's probably is a little bit of column A and column B, where you have a funding mechanism to inspire entrepreneurs, and then once they finish it, then you hit them with the NDA clause and everything else in their contract for their funding, and they work for you
Yep.
for so many years, and then you can take it out into the private market.
Yeah, that's a conspiracy theory I can bite into. It sounds right.
See, I try to pick good things for the categories, and things like this, you know, I try to once in a while take a look at what the government has that's not readily available. The first thing you come across is weapons. So let's look at technological weapons as opposed to artillery weapons. If you look
Sure.
into the U.S. Army, they have a weapon that mounts to the top of an artillery vehicle as opposed to a machine gun. It mounts on the top and it creates a pulse of heat or it's a microwave radio
Microwave. Yeah.
frequency or something that, if aimed
Yeah.
at persons, it can heat up the skin of the subject to the point where it feels like their skin is burning but cause no actual damage to the skin.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but there was a U.S. documentary done with the BBC about stealth submarines that was released at the start of the Iraq War because of the way that the submarines are built. Radar just does not, or sorry, sonar does not pick them up. So, in a military way, that type of plating would be, it would be withheld from the public. Same thing with like how you can build a modern base now because of buckyball based plastics that can withstand an artillery shell, but the actual wall to the that is withstanding the shell is light enough that you can set it up very quickly. And the Army Corps of Engineers is not, setting up gigantic stone and plate walls and shit. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Other
I mean,
things get created in weird ways too, accidentally, and then acquired by or created by the organization with the intent to create something else, like Velcro.
Hmm.
yeah.
I'm trying to think of a couple of things that were created by government agencies that were funded to create one thing and accidentally created another, and it didn't get released because
Well,
they were using it first.
Well, I mean, just look at the space race itself and how many things came out of that. I mean, your iWatch has more computing power than all of the Houston launch facility and the actual you know um spacecraft itself. You know, and we're supposed to assume that there isn't something being updated on the military end, because if you have access to like quad core 64-bit processors, what's to say that the military itself isn't using quad core 128-bit processors just so that way they can withstand a civilian onslaught? See what I mean?
Right? They have to be prepared to respond faster than what they're
Yes.
responding against.
Yes, that's a much better way of saying what I was trying to get at. Absolutely, yes. I'm in total agreement on that.
All
Yeah,
right. And our gong is about to
I
go
like that
off
one.
at the end of a 10-minute marker. Two, one. I love sound effects.
Me too.
Nice.
All right. And we are back to Miastra with the board.
Oh boy. Let's see. Wow, this is one heck of a lovely board. Let's go with religion, because
Religion.
that
Everybody
that's
loves
another
the hot
fun
topics.
topic.
Traditions will begin to die without religion.
Absolutely agree.
You don't think some will be
Yeah,
held over even if religious philosophies get dropped?
Well, Sargon was very patronizing about, Americans, forgetting their religion. But if you look at what's happening to Europe, for example, and after the breaking of the back of the Catholic Church is not in a position to call up a religious response to another religion's invasion. So, like, for example, if you look at the new Civ game, Civ 6, there's an entire new war concept where you can use religious warfare and, cause explosions and stuff from terrorists in that game. And if you look at how you start dismantling the religious underpinnings of a society, it really does lead to hedonism. Because what other? I mean, it is very Aristotelian as opposed to like uh Platean in its view, but I can't see the Ayn Rand Platean view being successful, because there is, morally, why would you want to be virtually selfish as opposed to just being, horrifically abusive without some type of traditional vanguard to hold you in check? You know, when you have the fear of God in you, you do a lot of things. Now, some of those things are horrible, some of those things are great. But without those religious underpinnings, because I mean, you have to understand, religion's been dead in the world for about 200 years, and we're a species that's been around for over 200,000 years as Homo sapiens. So, I mean, this is the first time in history where we haven't believed in, the sky being the god, the sun being some type of, other deity, the moon being some other form of deity, and we're trying to scientifically explain acts of God as per insurance, quandaries. And I just don't see it, because the more that you rip away at that foundation of whatever the culture was in its religion, the more and more you're left with, well, sex has no consequences and it has no meaning, and it's just to enjoy yourself. So why is it everybody so unhappy that they just get hookups, for example?
Right. Marriage
that was
being
eloquent.
another one. Go ahead.
There's really not a whole lot to add to that. It's pretty much the base. What he said is perfectly correct. I can't find fault. It just makes sense. It's like once you take away the responsibility of the whole thing, where the religion is what keeps the community together, and you've replaced it with what we have today in the media and all forms of just base communications like Skype and Twitch and Twitter and all this other good junk, you pass along ideas that challenge the traditional way of thinking, and those ideas are killed off, and you lose the desire to follow said traditions. Like you wouldn't be able to even be able to tell what your family was believing in from 200 years ago compared to what you are now in terms of what you think is important. They'd look at you like you were some sort of hedonistic monster that needed to be put down.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
it's just fascinating to me, the whole juxtaposition between then and now.
Well,
Okay,
I
how
mean,
about if you
not sorry,
go
sorry.
ahead?
Please go ahead. I was about to respond, but
I'm just
please go ahead.
wondering how many people watching or listening celebrate Christmas or Easter in any way, modern or Orthodox, if they celebrate them, yet they don't religiously celebrate a God. Because I don't
That is a very
go to
good
church, but I
question.
celebrate Easter with my children and I give them Christmas gifts. So, without the religious factor, the tradition of the holiday still remains. It's just changed meaning.
Yes, but in that holiday, you're also not going through any of the checks and balances of yourself. Like you're not going through the fasting involved before the Christmas. You're not going through the 12 days of Christmas. You're not going through any of the self-reflection that happens. Instead, it's just a gigantic stampede on Black Friday to get the cheapest deal, and it's all in the here and now hedonism. The tradition is still there, but it has no meaning, and it's just another sale. I mean, how is that any different than having your annual sale for Easter? I mean, the whole thing behind a winter solstice in multiple cultures, going from Norse religion to the Abrahamic religions to Hinduism to zoanthropism, all has to do with the darkest hour and what is psychologically called sad uh, disorder, which is seasonally affected disorder for those that don't know. And it gives you a higher purpose to suffer through the darkness and the cold. I do not. I'm an irreligious person due to being excommunicated for being gay, but I still see the value of having a religion there because I mean Easter itself is a ancient Wiccan holiday. I mean bunnies don't lay eggs. Explain that. Why? you know and if you don't have that explanation as to why bunnies don't lay eggs and what's the meaning of the Christmas tree, for example, and what's the meaning of all of these, we're specifically in an Abrahamic setting right now, but if you don't have the meanings behind those, then why bother going through the trappings? It's hassle. I have work. See what I mean?
Right. And I when I
I think a
thought
lot
this
of the
one
good.
up,
Oh, sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Nope, you go ahead. I talked.
When I thought
No,
this
no,
one
you go
up,
ahead.
it was really weird because we were just past Christmas, and I'm looking at all of the stuff as I was starting to pack away in my living room and going, we only take this out once a year. We have this whole stack of, and we do this and this and this, and it becomes a habit, almost a tradition to do these things within our house. But I have no religious context in my house of anything. I even gave away my grandmother's old manger scene because it's just not my type of thing for the house. It's not part of our tradition for Christmas.
So then
So,
why do it at all? You're doing it because you're keeping up with the Joneses, from what it sounds, as opposed to
it's
doing it for
become a
any higher
tradition.
calling.
The Christmas as my wife and my kids and I celebrate it right now actually only started for us about 10 years ago for when we had our son. And this year we changed some of the things we did, so we sort of lost the tradition because we moved. We didn't want a real pine tree, so we went with a fake one for the first time in 10 years. Um, but a tradition would
Hmm.
be something you do repeatedly, generation, or something you pass on to your kids for them to do. So the tradition of Christmas, my grandmother made my mom go through it. My mom hated it, didn't really much care for Christmas. I do kind of like Christmas. I like giving it to my kids, so the tradition kind of came back up, but it's changed. It's not the same tradition because I don't hold the same values that my grandmother did for Christmas, but I hold the values of
So then,
the happiness and the pleasure for the kids as opposed to the religious values.
So then you're specifically setting up a tradition for the next generation, but what's to say that tradition will hold when there's no underpinning of it? I mean, since we're talking about Christmas and the Abrahamic religions, to quote the Bible, if you never build your house on sand, for the foundation is not solid. If there's no foundation for your tradition, again, as you mentioned, you bring this out once a year and it takes up so much storage. And I'd really like to put a pantry down there, so let's get rid of this. We're only doing it for the kids anyway, and they know that Santa Claus isn't real, so why bother?
Right, and we've come across that even in our house. How to discuss that? My 11-year-old's pretty firm in the knowledge now, so it's hiding it from my 5-year-old for another couple of years if possible, which I don't think will happen. She's pretty smart. So we're unsure how that tradition is going to carry out. You're right. We don't have anything that to form the tradition on except of the holiday repeating.
Exactly. So it just becomes another governmental holiday where the banks are closed and you're doing it because your neighbors are doing it. It's very much that Chevy Chase moment where he's setting up the lights because he wants to have the best lighted house for Christmas. Well, why bother? I mean, what difference does it make? I have work to do. The kids already know Santa isn't real, so what's the purpose? And you have enough iterations of that, eventually it just becomes, well, this is when the sales start and this is when I can save money, and now you're looking at Easter turning.
Go ahead and finish that.
Okay, sorry. Well, now you're looking at Easter as becoming another gigantic sale holiday, because that's when most people have their tax returns back and they have money again. Yeah. You see, it's that like the commercialization of All Hallows Eve, or Halloween, for example, falls directly into that.
It does, and these traditions, I honestly feel, are slowly dying. Especially the Black Friday tradition, I think, is about to go away in the next few years. I think that's going to be done with.
Oh, absolutely. This is the worst Black Friday as far as sales go that's ever happened, and that's largely because of terrorism and other mitigating factors. People don't want to get stampeded or shot. Right. So they don't congregate in large groups, and the USPS is strained beyond all recognition and still on back order for shipping. So eventually those traditions will die out if it's purely based on the here and now hedonism of the moment.
All right. We are back to the board again, and I'm thinking, what is it? It's Dax, I believe. It's your turn.
Well, we had two hard-hitting ones, so let's do something easy and something that I think he and I are probably pretty on par with is video games. Why don't we do that?
Oh, sweet.
Video games. I guess I have to click on the right screen.
Yeah.
How long will it take for people to get sick of paying $100+ for a full game?
Oh, I'm already sick of it. I really don't feel the need to spend more than what I think the game is worth. And when the standard should be 60, where everything is included, EA and Battlefront 2 is a perfect example of me choosing not to support something that I probably would just regularly enjoy, but not supporting it with money that I know will be ill spent to fund another endeavor that repeats the same cycle of, well, here's the base game. It's very lackluster, but you want this mode or you want this thing over here, make sure you buy that special super brand that gives you everything for this whole thing here. But it's not the season pass. No, the season pass costs more, and then you got to go back and get that too, because if you miss out on any little thing, well, you don't really love the game as much as your friend over there does.
Well, that's a very keeping up with the Joneses argument, and I can agree to a certain point if we're talking about AAA games. Look at the blowback on Mass Effect 3 for the fact they had game day release DLC. Why wasn't the oh god, the I can't remember their name, but the alien that sounded African.
Javik.
Yeah.
Or not Javik. No, Javik was Andromeda. What the hell was his name? He was the Prothean, but I cannot remember his name for the life of me.
Yeah, but I mean, you could immediately buy the game, and if you didn't pre-order it, you'd have to drop another $25. The point of contention I have with you on that is the fact that most people won't
Oh,
view buying $100 game if they're playing, like, let's say Candy Crush or something else, and there's like a 99-cent transaction, or games like Game of War, where they hire an entire team of psychiatrists to make the game as addictive as possible, to spend as much on microtransactions as possible. So I really think that the AAA game set is probably going to drop back down to more of the $50 benchmark of where it was, but you're going to see a hyperinflation of microtransactions.
oh, I agree.
You
It
know,
is going to be the new thing.
and in that regard, you're going to hit the $100 mark real fast. Like, for example, I love ESO. I love it a lot. It's a great game. I have thousands of hours logged on it. But if you don't have the seasonal pass, even though you own the game, it's not called a seasonal pass. But even if you don't own, even if you own the game and you don't have the $15 a month thing set up, then you don't have access to all the DLC. You don't get the in-game crowns that you can buy stuff. You train slower, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's all these extra perks to get you on a subscription setup. And if you look at it that way, every 4 months you're spending $60. You know,
Mhm.
so that's $120 a year. So at that $100 mark, you've hit that in a year if just playing World of Warcraft, for $15 a month, or name any other MMORPG.
Yeah,
I,
you pay
it,
for the
I,
monthly
this
services, they
question,
add up.
yeah, it really does, and that's the thing that most people don't look at, because, like, for example, there's a lot of browser games, like one of the ones that I like quite a lot is called Trains, a Game on Rails. And but the thing about it is, it's a very slow game, and if you want to make anything go quickly, then you need to start pumping out the microtransactions, or else, it's very much a pay to win kind of situation. And when you have, and this is going to touch on a different subject a little bit, but this is very important. When you have, particularly because the majority of people that are playing pay to win are kids, when you have a child that has two credit cards from separated parents that are not involved in their life, they can drop 5 grand on, like, battle pirates to make the newest shiniest pew 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 ship set, and it's just on split between two credit cards, and neither parent is actually involved. So it really is one of those things where, yeah, I definitely can see on the AAA set, like, as you mentioned, Battlefront, where there's just a consumer revolt, very much like the consumer revolt for Mass Effect 3, where they wanted the ending changed and raised, like, something like million, it was at least $1 million or something on the GoFundMe to get the ending changed. And Activision wouldn't do it, or sorry, EA wouldn't do it, and they donated the money anyway, and the Mass Effect line is pretty much dead because all of its core players have no interest in it because they're so pissed off at the game creator. you know and I mean, in that instance, I can definitely see that people are starting to get very pissed off, but I don't see them recognizing the subscription based setup as expensive as it actually is. And I don't see most people responding to games with microtransactions, counting up exactly how many, 99-cent, 59-cent, 2.99s that they spent. You see what I mean? I'm going to cede the floor, but because I tossed a lot out there, but I mean,
No, you're right. I mean, it's so much easier in most people's mind, especially like you were saying when the kid's getting their attention from mommy and daddy's separate credit cards, where it's just a click away and your next step is there, and it's just an instant reward, and it makes you feel so good. And you were talking about the psychiatrist and that whole team thing. It's absolutely right. It's very enticing to see that instant reward, and
oh
it
yeah,
just makes you go to the next step to say, oh, hey, I mean, I'm here right now. I could either spend $10 and jump ahead what would have been 3 days of waiting for my energy to recharge, or, I can, just play the game and not really progress anywhere. And
Yeah.
most people are going to take that dive straight in. It's like, yeah, $10, man. I could chump change that. That's just an hour of work. I'll be fine. And then, sooner or later they start realizing, damn, I spent $500 on a free game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the actual advertising for Game of War was the most addictive game ever made.
Mm-hmm.
That was its original advertising on it. Was they were advertising how addictive it was as a selling point. I mean, like that was a point of sale for them. And, I mean, as you mentioned, yeah, you don't really realize how much you've spent if you're, nickeling and diming these little, oh, well, I'd like this building built today instead of, next week. So I'll pay the however many diamonds, gems, crowns, whatever the hell they call it in the game to boost the production speed up, to get my worker back or whatever, to have this building done on time that I want it now. And that dopamine hit that you get, that's very much like what they were talking about in Facebook, where, they specifically tried to design Facebook to give you so much dopamine hits that you cannot log off of it. Twitter's the same way. I mean, they specifically designed it to have that constant dopamine rush where, I mean, that's why in the DSM-6 they're actually putting game addiction as an actual thing because of what you just laid out, is that serotonin dopamine hit that you get for, oh yeah, I just got it. Fuck yeah, right on. Now I can move on to the next thing. Hoo-yah!
Yep. The other thing I want to
That was a
interject
battle cry for
with
us.
is I have to say I used to play Call of Duty a lot. I got really hooked into playing it, and the new maps always made it fun. But then when you go out and you buy your Call of Duty, if you didn't buy the season pass for another $60 on top of the game, you'd have to wait till the map pack came out. And if you played online and somebody got that map pack when it came out and you had to wait, you're sitting there trying to go, okay, do I have $15 on this card, or is it that card that has $15? I want to play with my friends, but I can't because it keeps popping me out of rotation when they go into the map I don't have. You know what?
Oh, they know
After
that.
about
That's
2 or
a
3
major
Call
thing
of
for them.
Duties, I gave up on Call of Duty. I don't even buy the new games anymore. I play them for the gameplay, not for the online, because the online got too annoying.
Yeah.
Well, and there's another whole topic we haven't even touched on, which is like the EA Sports section of games, where it's like, how many different ways can you remake Madden? And the only difference is the fact that you're using the likeness of. I mean, there's no real fundamental difference. They haven't changed the game engine at all. It's just a new year, so here's this, and you have to buy a whole new game, and to get it. And when you're looking at, waiting for months and months and months for this to become available to the public versus just buying, as you said, that season pass, why would you wait? And I very much agree on this. And as a game streamer, that's one of the things, like, before I even touched Warframe, I wanted to make certain from Dax that I wasn't looking at $300 worth of DLC to buy, because I wasn't even going to download the damn thing if I had to spend that much to play a free to play game. No way.
No, Warframe has a really good system, and I'm very happy the way they handle it. Yeah, you're gonna hit your walls where you're not gonna be moving, but for me, that dopamine rush isn't so there as much because, quite frankly, the platinum's kind of expensive. So I really don't have as much incentive to throw down $50 to get a little bit of platinum when some of the best mods out there are gonna cost like a third of this supply.
I haven't played Warframe yet. I just started looking at Steam games the other day, so I'll get
I
back
recommend
and
it.
see if there's anything fun on there.
Oh, I just got my 11-year Steam badge, so yeah. I went digital on Steam because I got sick and tired of games having CDs and stuff, and this is back in the era where like digital downloads was brand new.
You're talking to somebody who has a working Atari 2600 with over 60 games for it.
My God, I'm jealous. Oh my God.
If I went through and told you guys what I own for video game systems, there's a few good ones that I'm missing, but I have all of the old Segas. I have the Atari. I have all of the old Nintendos, all the way up to the Cube. I have, I had all of the Xboxes and all of the PlayStations and all of the everything.
Well, see, like what you just mentioned right there is actually what got me into Steam was the fact that I was looking at it where it's like I could buy a controller or I could buy yet another new $400 console, to play these games, and why? I could spend $400 and get a decent rig, on sale. And the big thing that knocked me off was when Nintendo through the Wii started reselling all of the old games that Nintendo had at market value. I'm just like, what, $20 for Final Fantasy IV?
Yeah, why am I spending $25 on Legend of Zelda Original? It's like,
exactly.
Really?
Exactly.
Because the new systems are coming out with all of the games that I still have the original system and game for.
Just staring at the gold cart sitting on the wall. It's like, suckers.
Oh, all right. So we are back to the board. We are right about 10 o'clock, and I don't know who else is streaming today. We can run one more topic, or we can cut it and say our goodbyes till Monday. How would you guys like to proceed?
I'd like you to pick a topic. I could do one more.
You want me to pick
I'll gladly do one more. This is my first live stream, so sure. I'm just glad to be here. This is fun.
All right.
Glad I dragged you along.
Go ahead and pick a topic. I know what's behind them, so it wouldn't be right for me to
I
have enough guests.
Oh, boy. Well, we haven't touched the general yet, so let's get into transportation, because that sounds nice and exciting to end with.
We are or are not ready for self-driving cars.
Absolutely not.
Nope. That was easy.
Absolutely not. I'm sorry.
Have a good day. Bye.
Exactly. Yeah. No. No. But really quick. The reason why I don't like the concept of self-driving cars is even if everything works properly on the roadways and everything, and they work properly, what's to stop your car from getting hacked?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's a computer. So what's stopping somebody from disabling your brakes? There is advantage to manual control. To call back to hackers, when the evil computer guy, the Plague, is saying, well, there is no manual control anymore, Duke. They're all automated. There's no way around this. If you apply that to self-driving vehicles, what's to stop an accidental override? And it sounds like an excellent way to get assassinated. Personally, no.
It's a nice concept, but we are far from anywhere near what I'd call safe on that. And it's exactly what he said. I'm worried about somebody messing with my brakes, or all of a sudden saying, hey, I want to go faster. Or even worse, somebody who can modify it so that they can make their car go a little bit faster, a little bit this, and force all the other cars to try to think of a way to get out of the way and cause even more accidents and more pileups because the systems are going to fry themselves trying to adapt. It's like, no, we can use driving assistance, like for maybe long roads. Like I think a long drive, like on a highway or an autobahn, something like that, it's self-driving cars, perfect. You don't have to touch it. It's pretty much a straight road anyway, and you only have to pull off when you gotta go to the bathroom. Besides the point, those would be fine, but I don't think we're anywhere near reliably ready to have a self-driving car that can go down, say, a city street or even a school zone. I'm not cool with that yet. Maybe give it a few dozen years.
Oh yeah, no, I can see the financial advantage of having like long distance freight becoming automated, and this is a big issue because truckers are worried about this, and rightly so, because if you're literally driving from Denver to Kansas City, it's just a straight 5.5, 6 hour drive down 70, and you don't have to do anything. Why have a person in there if all you're doing is just going from one rail line to another? And in that regard, I could see a commercial driving vehicle be a whole lot more useful than a actual person vehicle. But yeah, as soon as you get into a city, what happens when the antique car collector is driving around in a Model A, and the self-driving car can't process it because it doesn't have these standard human manned cars, because you will run into that exact problem that you you presented, where you can't control what a human's going to do. A human very well could decide that they're going to, jump 3 lanes because they missed their exit. And then what happens to all of the cars that you just zipped in front of?
Yeah, it's going to be mandatory retrofitting. Everybody's going to have some form of digital control box inserted to all their old cars just to make them drivable on the road, and then you're going to get the backlash from the what will probably be called purists, and then it's going to be a nice little fight on Capitol Hill just to say, hey, I have the right to drive. Why does my car have to drive me? And then the stupidity will ensue.
Well, a little bit on that note before time runs out. Driving is a privilege. It's not an actual right in any country that I know of. So in that regard, you're not dealing with so much of a constitutional crisis like you would be dealing with where, they're talk about, removing all but bolt action rifles from America. Good fucking luck. There's 330 million people and 350 million guns. Have a good time with that. But my point on the cars, though, is that, the car ratio isn't as bad. And since it's a privilege, you could just make it mandatory. But look at the blowback just on healthcare. It's been what? Not even one president, and they're already stripping it apart and trying to get rid of it. If you did this, then you're gonna. How long would that last? Reagan ripped up, Carter's solar panels on the White House lawn the day he was inaugurated. He ordered them all taken down.
Glorious.
Well, it's history. That's exactly what happened. That's a direct correlation. And so solar panels. Getting back to technology, solar panels are something that the government uses on satellites to keep them powered. Mm-hmm. And the only reason why they became cheap is because they declassified them. To be honest with you, mm-hmm. So if you're looking at cars the same way that you're looking at that, there could be a very good argument constitutionally where it is safer to do this because more people die every 5 years on the road than died in all of Vietnam. That's just a statistical fact, and nobody's really complaining about the fact you're driving. So, I could see a nanny state argument for why it's like seatbelts, for example. Seatbelts usually are 50-50. You either get ejected from the car if you're not wearing a seatbelt or you get crunched in it. Now with airbags and everything else, it's actually safer to wear a seatbelt. But look at how many other things had to be added to the car. Crumple zones, airbags, side airbags, etc. So how much retrofitting are you going to actually have to put into every vehicle to make them work this way? And can you guarantee that every model of every car has the capacity for the computer and the electrical, powering of that computer without draining your car battery? You're basically talking about ripping out an internal combustion engine, putting in an electric engine, and somehow making that powered without taking down the entire fleet and without taking down the entire support for that fleet.
And again, everything surrounding roadways would have to be digitally managed into the roadways. Stop walks,
yep.
Crosswalks, signs, pressure plates in the roads, stoplight reading sensors. Everything would have to be digitally managed to work together. So yeah, it would have to be an all or nothing. You'd have to literally
absolutely
to work like this and then build from it.
Well, so South Korea is trying it, and South Korea has no problem with it because South Korea is a third the size of my state because it's literally not that big. But if you look at something as big geographically as the United States, how can you guarantee that backwater Texas, Montana, Alaska are going to have all of these retrofitted roadways? And what happens if you're in a self-driving car and real quick, just to top my question, what happens if you're in a self-driving car and you run into a 100-yard section of road that does not have any of those mandatory requirements?
Right. Is the car programmed to decide what to do past the point of the network that it has to be a part of to be able to make those decisions? Very, very good.
We're all looking for that. Yeah, I liked it. It was fun.
Well, yeah, no, I had a really good time. I mean, we hit on some really touchy subjects that we had a lot of fun in the last back half of the silly stuff. So that was really nice that we got all the seriousness out of the way,
Yeah,
and
and
I
this is
really
how I
enjoyed
run the
it.
show. I'm trying to get the show
I'll got.
smoother, but I think I like it like
Oh
this.
yeah.
A good conversation starter.
Oh no.
Helps come up with topics and ideas.
This was a lot of fun. I'll gladly come back anytime you guys want me to, because this was a real enjoyable time.
Absolutely.
You
I try
know,
to run the show at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm usually looking for 2 guests. I'll accept 1. I try to get new perspectives every show if possible. I have done a couple people on here more than once. But again, we're only in episode 10. Episode 11 will be New Year's Day at
nice.
again, 9 a.m. Feel free to tune in, let people know I'm here, and tell them to check it out and see if it's something they might be interested in.
Sounds like fun.
Absolutely. This was a
today.
great time. Yes, no, thank you for having me.
All right, and you guys have a good afternoon. I'm going to play us out with some music. Yep. Everybody else, have a good day. Don't forget to hit that like button for me.